So it's finally here. The rematch that absolutely nobody has been waiting for. Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, the third. Number 3, the trilogy fight. Hopefully the last fight between these two. But I'm going to stop ragging on this fight and I'm going to talk about it. Because despite the conclusive nature of Tyson Fury's victory in the last fight and how drawn out this third fight has been, there's still some intrigue. You know, these are heavyweights at the end of the day. This is for a portion of the heavyweight title. And there are still quite a few questions going into this fight. And so just to break it down and have a recap of the second fight, Deontay Wilder was able to get off very little offense. And from a technical point of view, we can understand why, because Fury used a combination of stiff arming at long range to affect Wilder's balance and prevent him from getting leverage in his shots. He used his feints, even though they're not technically the most polished or technically sound feints, they do get the desired reaction. And also the inside wrestling, which really exhausted Wilder and allowed Fury to break him down over the, I believe it was 7 rounds that fight lasted. And Fury surprised many people with how aggressive he was. Not just the boxing public and the pundits, but also Wilder himself. And there was a lot of bravado in the lead up, as there is always going to be between these two guys. But Fury was adamant that he'd come forward on Wilder, close Wilder down and knock him out. And Fury did just that. And I imagine that was quite a considerable shock to Deontay Wilder. But see, the thing is, that element of surprise is now gone. And not only is it gone, but I think the element of surprise is now in Deontay Wilder's favour. Because Wilder disappeared for a long time, and then there were videos surfacing of Wilder on the padwork with his new, on pads with his new trainer Malik Scott. And it showed some improvements. Nothing major, but some considerable improvements, like the use of feints and the lighter controlling shots that I always talk about. And this was used to set up the right hand of Wilder. And although these are things that aren't necessarily that advanced, it's definitely a step in the right direction, because Wilder has never employed these techniques to any meaningful extent in either his training or his fights. There was also a use of rolls up close, at close range, and I anticipate that that is their way of practicing being able to negate the inside work of Tyson Fury. Will it pay off? I'm not entirely sure, because Fury isn't the most clinical and clean inside fighter. He's quite rough on the inside, and don't get me wrong, it's better than having no defense on the inside at all. I'm just not sure if it's gonna be that great an investment, but it's worth a try. And that's just what I see in the training and pad work of Deontay Wilder. And as I say, Wilder potentially has the element of surprise now in his favour, because many of the boxing public and pundits expect Wilder to get blown away once again, given the dominant nature of Tyson Fury's Tyson Fury in the previous fight, the second fight. And there are some kind of unknowns. Well, there are quite a few unknowns, but one of them is, how much has Deontay Wilder improved since teaming up with Malik Scott? Because Malik Scott was no great shakes as a fighter, but also the jury's still out when it comes to him in the capacity of a coach. How good is he? How much can he teach Deontay Wilder? Can he adequately prepare him for someone of Fury's caliber? But also, Wilder has had more time to heal, not just physically, but mentally. We're going to find out how well Deontay deals with a loss, because this is a new experience for him. And go into a psychological point of view, because I think Technically, there are some considerable aspects to this fight, but I think a lot of it is going to come down to mentality. What will Deontay's mindset be like after taking such a severe hiding? Will he have healed adequately? Will he ever heal? Is he a ruined fighter now? I guess we're going to find out. But also, on the flip side, because he's now lost, not just lost, but taken a brutal beating, has the pressure of being undefeated dissipated? Because in the lead up to the rematch, for many years now, Deontay Wilder has had a reputation, especially in America. And not to say that this reputation is warranted or not, but nevertheless, it was there. And Deontay Wilder believed it. It was this reputation of being the great American heavyweight, the baddest man on the planet since Mike Tyson. All this, as I say, is it valid? Is it not? I don't know. Probably not, I think most people would answer. But nevertheless, it existed. And when you have a reputation like that, there is pressure, not only because you're undefeated, but because you have this added reputation to live up to it. And that can bring about a lot of anxiety. But now that pressure is gone and people have no expectations of Wilder, and you could say that all the pressure is on Fury to not only repeat the outcome of the last fight, but maybe even be even more conclusive. Don't allow Wilder to get stopped on his feet. Knock him out stone cold. Wilder doesn't have any pressure on him. Could this enhance his chances of winning? It's just a question. But on the flip side, will we see a complacent version of Tyson Fury? Because history has shown throughout Tyson Fury's career that he tends to struggle against the guys who he doesn't perceive as a considerable threat. If you hear some beeping, that is just my alarm. It goes off every night at 12 o'clock. So pardon me for that. Does he still perceive Wilder as a threat? Because if he doesn't, I think there is a considerable likelihood that he experiences some trouble in this fight. Because if we look at it from Tyson Fury's point of view, he drew with Deontay Wilder when he was completely out of shape. When he got into better shape, he conclusively and brutally beat him from pillar to post. Now he's had even more time to get in shape, at least on paper, and consolidate his newfound technique. Will he just see it as a given, as a default win, and an even more conclusive win? And as such, was this complacency, will he take his eye off the ball? Because Deontay Wilder, despite his shortcomings, all he needs is a split second to take someone's lights out. And you can critique Deontay Wilder as a person, certainly. And you can certainly critique his resume and his conduct within boxing. But he has legitimate one-punch power. Because there's a certain reaction that legitimate punchers get from their opponents when they land. And Deontay Wilder has separated many people from their senses. So this is not someone who you can afford to take lightly. But how does the fight go? Despite Fury's offensive improvement under Javon Hill, who he's now been with for quite a while, his coordination and agility leaves much to be desired, especially when coming forward. On the Hatman livestream I was on the weekend of the Joshua Usyk fight, I think many people liked my description of Fury being a lanky ogre of a man. And he is, at least coming forward. He's not as silky smooth coming forward as he is going backwards. And I think Wilder can potentially exploit that. If Fury opts to pressure Wilder like he did in the first fight, Wilder, I think, can exploit that by employing a bit more movement and having a better, more fluid flow to his work. Using those seamless, controlling shots and feints that he's been practicing on the pads. Can he now employ that with a good degree of proficiency and fluidity to have Tyson Fury have to catch up to him, lead Tyson Fury? Because as I've said many times, the famous quote is, the best way to control the opposition is to lead it yourself. Can he lead Tyson Fury? Can he get Tyson Fury reaching and then capitalize? I am doubtful. I don't think that Deontay Wilder has had enough time to assimilate this into his arsenal, because it's not something that comes naturally to him. If you look at Deontay Wilder, he's like a coiled spring, and he'll kind of fence with the left hand a little bit, and he'll try and manipulate the guard, he'll try and manipulate positioning, but it's not, I don't want to say, it's not the highest level stuff. It's there and it pays off eventually, but we're talking about a different caliber of opposition in Tyson Fury. And because I'm doubtful that Deontay Wilder is going to be able to employ these techniques, I can't bank on it. And despite Tyson Fury's shortcomings when coming forward and being a front foot offensive fighter, advancing forward, Fury has proven that he has enough dog to really dog Wilder out of a fight, for lack of a better term. And this is despite Wilder's shortcomings, he does have heart. There was no point in that second fight where he thought about giving in. Yes, he was completely shell-shocked, but I didn't see any quit in Wilder's eyes. I think he was genuinely quite disappointed that the fight was over, because as deluded as he may be, he believes he always has a chance. That's my interpretation of his behaviour and his mindset. But even then, Fury was just a bit too tough, a bit too rough for Wilder, and he exhausted him and broke him down, as I said. And when you consider that Tyson Fury has had even more time to consolidate his newfound offensive Kronk style, I do get just the slightest hint. I sense the slightest hint of complacency in Tyson Fury. Maybe I'm way off, but this is just my interpretation. And I think there's enough complacency in Tyson Fury to the point where it makes the third fight marginally trickier than the second fight. And for that reason, I am going to predict, I'm going to nail my colours to the mast, that Tyson Fury wins this fight on points. And I envisage it being quite a cagey and actually an underwhelming fight. Maybe be some moments where things look like they're heating up, but I think for the most part, it's going to be, I think it'll be closer to the first fight, but I think the first fight may even be a more entertaining one than this third one. I think this third one will probably go out with a bit of a whimper, but with another decisive win by Tyson Fury on points. I just don't think Wilder has had the time to up his skill set and improve his arsenal, but I do think he's going to do better than he did in the second fight. So yeah, I'm going to stick with that. And I think that is everything I have to say on this fight. I hope I'm wrong. As a caveat, I hope I'm wrong. I hope we see absolute blood and guts. I want to see someone violently knocked out, because I'm a boxing fan through and through. I love boxing. But you know, some sagas in boxing, they're just so drawn out. And it becomes so tiring, so exhausting, so boring, that you just want to see two guys, you don't care who wins, you just want to see them go in, knock 7 bells out of each other, and you just hope that it's worth the wait. So that's it. I don't anticipate a big knockout in this fight, but I hope it happens, and I hope we see both guys really put on a spectacle for us boxing fans who have had to deal with such a laborious saga. So yeah, that is my prediction video for this fight, the rematch that nobody asked for. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. What do you anticipate happens in this fight? What's your prediction? What do you think of my prediction? Let's get some discussion going in the comment section. Also, we're at 397 subscribers, so we're three subscribers shy of 400. We are on our way, guys. Another 103 subscribers and we're going to be halfway to 1,000. So thank you to everyone who continues to support the channel with your likes, your comments, your feedback, sharing this video and subscribing, of course. It means a lot to me and it helps me out so much, helps me to grow the channel and grow the boxing community. So for the love of boxing, let's hope it's a good fight. I appreciate your support as always. So if you could like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for listening and I'll catch you on the next video.